Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So, Hamzat Alwasl or Alif Alwasl, let's talk about it. Let's learn how to recognize it and how to sound it when you're reading Quran, inshallah. First of all, it comes in the beginning of a word like this Alif, and it will have that little sign on top, and that sign is a little Sad. It's a letter Sad because it's called Wasl and it has Sad in it. Every time in the Quran, you will find this sign on top of it that will help you recognize it. It means, wasl means connection. So it means you're going to connect the letter that comes before it. Like here, you have ha with kasra. You will connect it with the letter that comes after it. So basically, you do not sound Hamzat Alwasl. It's silent. It's just a sign telling you to connect. So here, if I'm reading sabbihi, sabbihi, I'm going to connect the ha with the letter that comes after Hamzat al-Wasl here, which is seen. It becomes sabbihis. If you can hear it, his, ma. And it's as simple as that. It's silent. You will see it, but you won't sound it. Generally, it has another time that you can sound it, but I will explain it. So every time you see it, you will connect the letter that comes before it with the letter that comes after it. Very, very simple. It has a little bit of branches to it. Let's check it out. Let's see, is there more Hamzat Wasl in this sentence? In this ayah? We have one right there. So I'm going to say Rabbi ke. I can't say L. It's not a. It's silent. So I do not sound it. It becomes Rabbi Kal. So the letter that came after Hamzat al-Wasl or Alif al-Wasl here is that lam with the sukoon on it. So I'm going to say ka, kal. سبح اسم ربك الأعلى. That's one way to recognize it. What else can I find? Sometimes Hamzat al-Wasl, the letter that comes after it, you cannot sound it. And it happens when the letter after is lam, and that lam is lam shamsiya. You don't have to know what that means if you don't know it already, but you will see that you can't sound it, and I'll show you how you can tell. Let's see this ayah here. We here have T, ta kasra T, and then I have Hamzat Wasl right there. So I'm going to naturally connect the ta with the lam that comes after it. But if you notice here, this lam has no vowels on it. So, and in the colored Quran, they made it gray to remind you to skip it. So I'm not gonna connect the ta now with the lam anymore. I will connect it with the letter that comes after the lam, which is in this word, dhal. So it goes na, fa, a, tiz, because the dal here has shadda, so it's tizdik, tizikra. So simply, if you see that the letter after Hamzat al-Wasl or the lam, because it only happens with the lam, if you see that that lam has nothing on it, skip it and go to the letter after. And generally, the letter after will have a shadda. That's also a sign telling you to skip. That's another way of sounding it. Let's see if there's more here. Yeah, that's another thing. Hamzat al-Wasl, now we agree that Hamzat al-Wasl, it's an alif that comes in the beginning of a word, like this word here, al-ashqa. It has a little sad on top to remind you what it is. And it means you connect the letter before it with the letter that comes after it. So here, وَيَتَجَنَّبُهَا, See that? I connected. I didn't sound the Hamzat Alwasl. I skipped it. هل. But if you notice here, I have an alif. Ha. Normally it's ويتجنبها. But Hamzat Alwasl, because of that connection, it's going to be hard to sound a long vowel that comes before Hamzat Alwasl. So also I'm going to make that silent as well. Hamzat Alwasl is silent. I'm skipping. So I go from the ha to the lam after Hamzat Alwasl. It becomes وَيَتَجَنَّبُ هَل. I'm not saying hal. I'm not sounding that long vowel. I'm saying هل. هل أشقى. Now we come to the next sentence. It comes right in time, alhamdulillah. With Hamzat Alwasl actually coming in the beginning of the ayah or the sentence. That's when I have to sound it now. So if Hamzat Alwasl comes in the beginning of the ayah or the sentence in general, I have to sound it like this one here. Now I sound it, and it has rules to sounding it. The first rule and the easiest one is to know how do I sound it. To say oo, do I say a, do I say e? How do I sound it? I have to start with a vowel to sound it. Simply, if there's lam after it in the Quran, you say a. So you pretend there is a fatha on it. Let me write that fatha. So it becomes alif with fatha a. Now to the next one. الذي. That's the first and very simple rule. If Hamzat Alwasl comes in the beginning of the sentence and I have to sound it, this is the first rule. If there's lam after it, you sound it. Now, if there was no lam after it, it's a different letter. Let me explain that to you on the whiteboard because this needs some writing. So here are the three conditions or three ways that you have to sound Hamzat Alwasl when there is no lam after it. I'm going to look at the word. I'm going to count the letters. Hamzat Alwasl, I will count it as 1, 2 will be the seen, 3 will be the meme here. Look at this word, isma. Hamzat Alwasl, and then seen with sukun, and then meme with fatha on top. So here, let's say this word came in the beginning of an ayah or the beginning of a sentence. Now I'm not going to ignore Hamzat Alwasl. I'm actually going to sound it. Now, do I say e, do I say a, or do I say u? That depends on the third letter in this word. 1, 2, 3. The third here is meme. And I look at the vowel on the meme. If it was fatha, the vowel on Hamzat Alwasl, I'm going to make it kasra. So fatha becomes kasra under Hamzat Alwasl. So here it goes e, isma. Very simple, just isma. So fatha is going to turn into kasra. Now, let's look at the last word here. Iqdi. I'm going also to look because there's no lam after Hamzat Alwasl. There's qaf actually. So I'm going to look. The first letter is Hamzat Alwasl, 1. Second letter is qaf with sukun, 2. Third letter is the bod, and it has kasra under it. If the third letter, also I'm looking at the third letter, has a kasra, it's going to be a kasra under Hamzat Alwasl. So in both cases, Hamzat Alwasl is going to be with a kasra, whether the third letter has fatha or it has kasra. Both turn into kasra. Why? If you remember, Hamzat Alwasl, when there's lam after it, we make it with a fatha, al, for example. Now, let me clean it up a little bit so it can look less messy. Okay. Now let's look at this word in the middle. I have Hamzat Alwasl, and I have it. Number 1 is Hamzat Alwasl. Number 2 is kaf. The third letter is ta with dhamma. Ta with dhamma. Now, when the third letter has a dhamma, I'm going to transfer that dhamma to Hamzat Alwasl. So it's very simple. Hamzat Alwasl, when there's no lam after it, I am going to look at the third letter in the word. If that letter has fatha or kasra like here, it's going to be kasra. Iqdi, isma. But if it had a dhamma, let me draw a different color line actually. If that third letter had a dhamma, I'm going to sound Hamzat Alwasl with a dhamma. It's going to be the same then. Uktub, uktub. Very, very simple. You just have to practice examples while you're reading from the Quran. Every time you look at that example, you remember the rule and you apply it. And in no time, you'll become an expert at it, inshallah. Let's do a recap to all of it. I have Hamzat Alwasl. Normally, Hamzat Alwasl comes like an alif that has a little sad on it. It's silent. I do not sound it, and I connect the letter before it with the letter after it. If it comes in the beginning of the sentence, I'm going to sound it now. And there are different ways to sound in it. If there was a lam after it, Hamzat Alwasl with a lam, I'm going to sound it as fatha. Whether I was going to sound that lam or not, it's fatha. Now, if there's no lam after it, if it's a different letter, I'm going to look at the third letter of the word. If that third letter has dhamma, I sound it with dhamma. If that letter has fatha, I'm going to sound it with kasra. And then if the third letter has kasra, also I'm going to sound it with kasra. It's as simple as that. And that concludes all the different conditions you will find Hamzat Alwasl in the Quran. All you have to do now is go onto a page of the Quran, start reading and start pulling out those examples and sounding them, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.